Hey everyone, welcome back to TVM Sports. Let's talk about week 6 here in college football. Huge Saturday slate, a lot of kind of marquee games, and there are a lot of ones that I would like to have seen on prime time, and it's unfortunate some of these teams have kind of underperforming seasons this year because on paper, some great matchups we're going to be talking about here in this video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you all hit that like button. Please subscribe down below and join us. And let's get it going. Let's use Outlier to talk about what we have going on in the big board. These will be the best odds available at the time of this recording, so keep that in mind. And I will recap all of my picks towards the end of this video, okay? So we are going to get into the Saturday games, and the first one that we are leading off with, this will be Air Force and Navy. This is the first game on the docket, and also the first game that I will have an official play in, okay? I think that one thing is for certain as we look at the past performance from Air Force as they gave up 44 points to Hawaii at home. I think this is one where, at home, this one is definitely one where I think that we have to talk about what Navy is able to do offensively. We'll look at the midshipmen here. And from a matchup perspective and kind of where the Navy side of this Armed Forces game will kind of rank. This won't be your Navy-Army game. It's a little bit different when Air Force does play Navy. But when we talk about scoring, okay, Navy's averaging 16 points allowed on defense. But I do think that this is where on offense, they are also putting up some points as well, okay? So there is that whole proponent that the Air Force will not be able to score. Navy's defense may be too tough, but I think this is one where we have seen Air Force in a few data points where, quite frankly, scoring 35, scoring 37, scoring 30, and despite losing to Boise State, you know, they gave up 49 points as well, but they were able to notch 37. So I understand that the clock will be continuously rolling within that triple option attack from Navy. But still, guys, we're going to take this here. I do like the side of the total here in this game where we take Navy-Army going over 51 in this spot, okay? Next game we're going to talk about, I don't have a play in this one, but it's Clemson and North Carolina, okay? This is kind of going back to the old narrative. Despite Bill Belichick's failure to take over that program, it's still something where I don't think Clemson is 14 points better than anybody. I said it on the Wake Forest week, 17.5-point favorites, and that's where all the sharp money was on that week as well. But Georgia Tech able to cover in that spot. So a very interesting matchup here is the Clemson Tigers. God help us if they go 1-4 and have their fourth loss against North Carolina. I think that might be a little bit where Clemson starts looking for a new coach a little ahead of schedule. Okay, but in this game, guys, it comes down to a couple things. And if you look at the numbers, sure, it's absolutely dreadful. I think Clemson still, despite their 1-3 record, despite all the big matchups that they did underperform, I still think this is a Clemson Tigers team that is, in my opinion, a very good football team. And I think there's a lot of things that they aren't able to use to their advantage for a lot of reasons, modernization of offenses, so on and so forth. But I still think that they have enough of a caliber offense, and they will handle the North Carolina Tar Heel attack. So this is kind of where I think Clemson does end up hanging one and taking North Carolina kind of behind the woodshed. I would not be shocked if Clemson did blow them out, but I'm not going to be playing this game just due to the fact that I could be wrong and Clemson could be that bad, okay? But Kansas State and Baylor, that's the next game to talk about. Interesting. I think we will get money on KSU. I think that the number falling from a 6.5 in some places all the way now to 5.5 there on DK. This is where I like the Wildcats, okay? I wasn't a big fan of Avery Johnson as the season kind of unfolded, playing the game in Ireland, losing to Iowa State. We were on the Iowa State side. There's a reason for that, okay? They've had a lot of injuries. I don't think that he's the same quarterback that he was as a freshman. I think they're trying to take away what he's the best at, and that is running the football at the quarterback position. I think that Kansas State, though, here in this spot, gets right a little bit healthier, and also Baylor. I think that if you watch last game for Kansas State, they threw the football, and that is one thing Baylor fails to do. So this would be a side where I do kind of follow KSU in the line movement, where I would take the Wildcats +6. I'm not going to take them +5.5, but that is a small lean as well. Iowa State and Cincinnati. All right, this is a game where, like I talked about Iowa State a little bit, I think they're kind of fool's gold, to be honest. And if Cincinnati is able to play offensively and have their way, which I do suspect they will, this is a fishy line, and we will kind of respect the line move, but I think that should be still more, even though the Bearcats are at home. This is kind of where I think this game is a little bit too lopsided to have it this close for the Bearcats being at home. I know we are seeing to see some money shift in the side of Cincinnati, but still, we have an unranked team going against a ranked team that I think that may be the worst unranked team that we have in the top 25. So I will go with Cincinnati here. We are going to take them, and I already did take them at minus 1.5. That will be my best bet, my second best bet for the Saturday card. Illinois and Purdue. What kind of Illinois opinion do you guys have? Okay, because right now I'm a little bit mixed. I can't get over essentially what we saw within the performance against Indiana. I can't unsee that. And the Boilers were able to drop 30 against a Notre Dame team trying to get right on defense. I don't know. I think this is one where we might see a lot of scoring. I think the 55.5 is warranted. And kind of saw an interesting statistic posted by Barstool. The game following a Taylor Swift album release, the Purdue Boilermakers are 0-10 on the season, or all time. So that kind of lends in the direction of the line. Just a funny one. Barstool does post some cool stuff from time to time. And not to talk music, we're talking football, but if you guys like those crazy betting trends historically, that's probably the one that takes the cake. Okay. But this is kind of where I think it's just a bad spot for Purdue. I think Illinois wins by 10 if you had to ask for my opinion. Okay. Next game, Kentucky and Georgia. I think this is another game where I would not be shocked if Georgia ends up dismantling the Wildcats. I think that they will play well off of a loss. They have to, okay? They have to. Their kind of backs are stacked if they do lose this game. I do think Georgia rolls here in the spot. I just don't know how much offensively they'll be able to score against Kentucky. Kind of my only reservation, because that means that essentially if they do hit a 27, they would have to hold Kentucky to basically 7 points or less, okay? So I don't quite frankly see that, so that's why it's not making my card. Wisconsin and Michigan, kind of another one of those Clemson-type opinions. If you think the Wolverines are a little fool's gold as well, you don't want to back a true freshman quarterback kind of thrown under the fire. For me, guys, I think Wisconsin's bad, but this is also one that, Luke Fickell, this could be probably his last season unless he gets his act together. And he has to have a big win or at least a big showing for his club, or the seat's going to get a little bit hot, okay? So just because that is the case, I think that will be extra motivation. Not enough for me to make an official bet, but it would not shock me if the Badgers keep this one close with the 17.5, okay? Next game we are going to look into, this is going to be one where we're going to talk about Boise State and Notre Dame. This is one where it almost made my card. Not biased by any stretch of imagination, but this one almost made my card by the likes of the fact that Notre Dame and Boise, I think that they do have two good offenses. However, Notre Dame's defense is kind of that question mark, okay? I was very impressed with 13 points allowed to Arkansas and 0. They pitched a shutout in the second half. But what it comes down to for me is which Notre Dame team are we going to have? They're going to be down one of their starting receivers for this game. And there are a lot of people out there calling for CJ Carr Heisman consideration. And, this may be what you guys would think is biased, but it's just the truth to me. Is Notre Dame a top 5 team right now? The answer to that question is no. Okay. But at the end of the season, CJ Carr gets, another 8 games under his belt and a lot of experience, and the offensive line continues to build and kind of recover. Charles Jagosa will be back in action, I think, either this week or next. That's their best left tackle, okay? With that rushing attack and a quarterback that looks a little bit comfortable there. And that's kind of one where it's going to be very interesting to see him transcend throughout his years at South Bend. But I think Notre Dame at the end of the season may be a top 5 team, okay? I think that if the record, they do drop a game, obviously not. But if Notre Dame finishes 10-2, I do truly believe that they will be one of the 5 best teams in the country. And I think that will start to take shape. And if you guys think I'm wrong, please let me know down below in the comments. But I just want to see that team mature and get right health-wise, because the remaining schedule will allow for them to kind of advance into the postseason. Vanderbilt in Alabama, but just to touch base on that last statement, my lean in that game would be taking the Notre Dame 62.5 going over, okay? The last thing that we're going to get kind of moving on with the 3:30 slate, I think for a while, is going to be Vanderbilt and Alabama. This is the game that everybody's talking about. You have heard, Diego. You've heard kind of Alabama beats Georgia. I wasn't too high on Georgia, okay? I didn't have the highest opinion on that Georgia club. And yeah, I think that Alabama may be one of those sneaky teams and kind of plays in tonight's handicap within Miami and Florida State, okay? How good is Alabama? Because that's the measuring stick being used right now to deduce what Florida State will bring on Saturday. So for me, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that the one thing I'll tell you is Alabama, in the way they lost to Vanderbilt last season, a lot of those guys remember that feeling, and they are playing in Tuscaloosa. So, if you were going to ask me my honest opinion, I think Alabama covers this, and I'd play this all the way up to 13, okay? That's just how I feel about it. Kind of fade the steam. And right now, Vanderbilt's kind of that public darling for Saturday where everybody wants to see the Crimson Tide lose. So I kind of lean in the direction of Alabama minus 11.5 all the way up to 12.5 if you wanted to take it. Okay, next game, Texas and Florida. This will be a plus money bet. Well, it could be if you want it, but the way I'm going to play it, it will not be a plus money bet. Okay, we're going to take it at minus 105 price, but this is where we're going to look at Texas. And guys, I have to talk about it because I think it is relevant. The way Texas lost Ohio State in week 1, I truly believe if Texas were to play Ohio State, let's just say in the Big Ten championship, if the conferences were like that, or even in November, I think Texas wins that game more than they lose it, okay? And Arch Manning, I know there's a lot of FUD going on with him, not the quarterback that we thought, and I personally agree with that as well, but you kind of have to remember what he's asked to do. He's asked to follow Peyton and Eli, even Archie, and for all intents and purposes, his brother or his dad, okay? Those expectations are a little unrealistic, and I think that, Ohio State's defense is good, but if you really ask me and wanted to know my God's honest opinion, I think Texas has a better defense, okay? I just think that game goes a different direction with a different kind of strategy around the goal line, and looking back on it, if you guys remember, I think Ohio State only scored or only eclipsed the 50-yard line into opponent territory twice, which for all of you that did watch that game, Ohio State scored on both of those possessions, okay? And that was pretty much it. So that's kind of how I feel about it. And I think that Texas will come to play defensively. I think when we talk about Florida, they cannot score points, all right? And I'm going to look into the Florida Gators side here going under their team total. And I found that at minus 105. And then right now you can get even money at Hard Rock, taking the under 17.5 points team total for the Florida Gators. That's going to be one of my best bets, all right? Back into the card, we will go down a little bit more, and we'll find the next one on the docket. Penn State and UCLA, another 3:30 kick. I'm sure there's the trends, the statistics, James Franklin off of a loss. I know they're on the road, East goes west, whatever. UCLA is maybe one of the worst teams in the country, and I think that when we talk about this game, the handicap, I think, wouldn't really matter as long as it wasn't a bad match. But I think that Oregon is my number one team in the country. I think that a lot of people are casting an opinion that does not align with the fact that Oregon is better than Penn State, okay? And it's just unfortunate. It's bad luck maybe for James Franklin and getting, maybe outside that Notre Dame game last year in the semifinals. That was probably the only time where they were, I want to say, expected to win a big game, okay? So for me, guys, and I shouldn't say it like that because they have lost a lot of upsets at home, but what I meant by that is, that's kind of where it was, even when everybody agreed with it, right? There was always doubts, but this is probably another game where everybody thought Penn State was going to win at home, and I was on the side of the Oregon money line personally for all the reasons that I'm kind of talking about. And as we look at the Nittany Lions here, following a loss, I probably could get into this, but I think that defensively they're going to play. I think UCLA is the team that I worry about scoring. And when we talk about them, this is kind of where you look into the season. 14 points, 10 points, 23 points, 10 points. And these were all against defenses that I wouldn't even put in the same conversation as Penn State. Okay, so don't get that part twisted. Penn State always plays good D. And, it just really means something to me when I think that this is where you look into UCLA defensively. it's hit or miss. They haven't really allowed too many high totals, especially against teams that I would expect them to absolutely roll them. But for me, I think Penn State kind of has to make a statement here. I think they have to allude to the conversation for the playoff committee that they deserve to be there. So he's done it before. I bet him and lost this year doing this. And I think James Franklin runs up the score. So give me Penn State team total over 38.5 at plus 130. That's a plus money price. I think Penn State drops 40. And that's going to be kind of my, I don't want to say long shot, but the only plus money play on the board that I'm going to attack. Okay. Next, we'll get down and talk about Kent State, Oklahoma. Kind of interested a little bit in Kent State in terms of their team total, just due to the fact that Kent State has had a rough schedule thus far. They've played a ton of quality opponents. And looking at Kent's schedule, Florida State, Buffalo, Texas Tech, and now Oklahoma. So what a schedule. So shout out to Kent State for the athletic department for actually showing some sack when it comes to some of these non-cons, and they're definitely collecting that money. So yes, they may be one of the worst teams, but at the end of the season, they're going to have a lot of revenue from the football program from playing all these non-cons, okay? But Kent State, like I talked about it, guys, I think that you look into what they've done against those teams. Supposedly, at the time, all great defenses. Florida State, they scored 10. Texas Tech, they scored 14, which, in my opinion, is a top 5 defense, maybe top 5 team at this current moment. I think that, when we talk about it, Kent State might put a touchdown up on the Sooners, okay? But the Sooners, I think they're off a bye, so that does give me a little bit cause for pause. They may pitch a shutout, but I kind of look into it. So Kent State, it's a very strong lean where I would look at the Kent State team total over 5.5, and I think you actually do get plus money with that. Okay, so 2 field goals, touchdown. Why not us? I kind of like Kent State over team total. It's not an official play, but it is something I definitely do favor. Texas Tech in Houston will kind of kick off the evening slate. We'll talk about the Red Raiders. I did a little bit saying that they are one of my top 5 teams right now, and I think that the money did pay for it. So that model has not really done or paid dividends thus far, and we'll see if they kind of change that narrative, okay? But this is where I look at Texas Tech, and this number has been moving. I took it at minus 11. I would take this up to minus 13. This is one of my best bets as well. So give me Texas Tech. I think they kind of shut the door on Houston, and I watched Houston play a little bit against the game they had, I believe. Got to find it here, but I believe it was the last week game, and that's where Houston was playing Oregon State. Now, Oregon State, one of the worst teams in the country. They were at Oregon State, so the numbers get a little bit different, okay? That's one of the kind of home stadiums that does have a difference within a home field of effect. Not as drastic as a whiteout at Happy Valley, but still, it's one of those stadiums that I do have on my list of ballparks that will kind of change the outcome of the game just being there, okay, and playing at home. But I do like Texas Tech here. I can't get over the fact that Oregon State gave up 27 points or 24 points to Oregon State, and 36 was what Colorado was able to drop on them. I think Texas Tech wins with some margin. So give me Texas Tech minus. Well, for all intents and purposes, for the channel, we'll call it 12.5. But full disclosure, I did bet this at 11.5. I would take it to 13. Okay. Next one, another 7 o'clock slate. The Troy Trojans. Okay. Cut and dry, plain and simple. I think the wrong team is favored here. If we lose this bet, then somebody knew something I didn't. But I think that the Troy Trojans being dogs at home, essentially, I think is one of the numbers that is most out of whack on this Saturday slate, okay? So for me, guys, I think that South Florida is 1-4 for a reason. They should not be favored on the road, and I think that Troy and their defense will be able to carry them. So give me the Trojans plus 100, and that one, in my opinion, is a very strong play. Okay, Miami and the Florida State Seminoles, the game that everybody wants to talk about. Everybody's going to be looking forward to this primetime in-state matchup. For me, I'm not on the train that Miami is going to see a crystal ball debacle today. I think that when we talk Florida State, yes, I like Tommy Castellanos. I think there's going to be some things happening within Norvell, within how plays may be being called. But I think that there is going to be something to be said about Florida State and what they did against that Virginia offense, okay? I just think that if Miami was able to score, 20 plus on Notre Dame, playing against that Notre Dame defense, that's kind of the bar for me. If Florida State's able to show face and show people that they actually deserve to be a top 10 team, they're going to play great defense, and Miami still has a chance to win the 4.5, cover the 4.5. So right now we're seeing a lot of action on Florida State, and I think this is kind of one of those games where I think the trust in kind of the process and just, really looking at the commonalities within opponents to figure out who's who. I don't agree with this whatsoever. I think Miami should be a 6.5 point favorite in this game. I also have Miami right now as my my number 2 team in the country right now. And I think they show it there on Saturday night. Home field does make a difference, so that's the only thing I do worry about. I have a slight lean towards the over as well, but I'm not going to bet against kind of my numbers when I talk Miami in their defense. So give me the Hurricanes here, -4. It's a very strong lean, not an official play, okay? Next, let's talk about the game that I wanted to bet with all my heart, but I don't understand why Kansas is 3.5 on the road taking on UCF. I think that they should be a little bit higher as well. Not betting that, but just kind of my numbers. That's one of the outliers, if you will, okay? Memphis, Tulsa, I think Memphis kind of bounces back here and covers a big number. It's not an official play, but it's just something I do stack up on, and that's pretty much it. Outside of Texas A&M and Mississippi State, which I don't have an opinion on, those are my best bets, okay? And we'll recap those right now, and I'll share with you guys what my plays are. If you guys are going to be following me, fading me, let me know down below in the comments. It will be an exciting day of action. This was a huge video, so I do appreciate all of my subscribers who watched to the end. But my recap of my best bets, we're going Florida under the team total of 17.5, -105. I took Air Force Navy over 51. Also, Penn State, we're going to go over that 38.5 team total, paying some plus money. I think they dropped 40, and we do have the chance at 39. Plus 130 is the best price I found. Troy, money line, we'll take that one, as we will get some plus money there. Texas Tech will take the -11. Oh, that's what I took. You probably won't be able to find that on game day, but I would play that up to 13, no more than -110. Cincinnati and the spread on that one, -1.5. And I know it's one of my rules. You don't take -1.5, lay the juice, take the money line. But I think Cincinnati's going to get this one done. So those will be my best bets. So 6 plays for the entire slate. Appreciate you guys, as I said, for tuning in and following me. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe on your way out. You can find my X page, Instagram, all that good stuff. But those are my best bets. Good luck out there. Let's cash some tickets, and I'll see you all tomorrow for NFL.